Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session about IT outsourcing. My name is Cornel Fatulescu. I'm Chief Platform Officer at PentaBAR, meaning I'm in charge with products and technology aspects of our group strategy. And I'm going to talk today, again, especially for CTOs, but not just for CTOs, for technology leaders, those who have digital products and digital services. And I hope the outsourcing theme is an important one. And yeah, that being said, I'm going to share my slides and just let me know if you see my screen. Looking at the chat. If someone can confirm that the screen is the right screen. Oh. Good. Good. Thank you for this. Now, whatever we've shared lately, it was always with the CTO in mind. And we've been through series like CTO Fundamentals. We had 2 seasons there. We have CTO Talks. We have PentaBARs, which are fairly very technical and developer or IT kind of stuff we've experienced. Now, again, this presentation was also thought to, if you're a CTO and have questions about outsourcing, after this session, most of your questions should be addressed. But this is the first fundamental session. And of course, we will have a Q&A in the end to go further. Now, how is this presentation structured? We are going to talk about why we've chosen this presentation. Second, we are going to go through 12 topics related to outsourcing, recurrent themes. We are going to have a Q&A session in the end and some references that you can use later to go further. This is it, the 12 topics we are going to go through. These are recurrent themes, questions that we have from time to time. And I hope we cover most of them. And if we don't cover, that's fine. You have the Q&A module here in the chat. Write them down because there will be a Q&A session in the end. We are going to start with why outsourcing, when to outsource, if you're outsourcing the first time, then selecting partner, locations, everything which is important for outsourcing. We are going to debate a bit about what should you outsource, the old, the new, cultural differences, how to pitch that, because again, we've started with the CTO in mind. So how to pitch that with your executive partners, like the executive officer or the financial officer, scale up, scale down, risks and challenges, and of course, how to measure the success. And we will wrap it up with a short demo of how things can work for you, and of course, with Pentalog in mind, that company I represent, because it's easier to give examples from the trenches. So let's start with why outsourcing. Many customers of ours, and this is a recurrent need, staffing. We need more people available for our projects. That's a very frequent need. And then there are things like better quality. This is more and more often, and the idea of outsourcing bad quality and all this stuff should have disappeared until now. And if it didn't, you might not work with the right partner, because outsourcing partners work with hundreds of customers, tens of customers, depends on the size of that player. And they should learn from all of them. If they don't learn, something might be not okay. Then flexibility, of course, we've seen what happened in the last years. We've seen the COVID crisis, the pandemic. We've seen how everything shifted from aggressive growth to aggressive EBITDA. So yeah, many things change. So you need flexibility, and they are partners perfectly suited for flexibilizing your capabilities. Right cost. Outsourcing is widespread. You have all sorts of flavors, but it's no longer the low cost kind of discussion. It depends on the region, but it's usually right cost. So, it's up to you how to integrate this well. Of course, expertise. You might not have everything in your company, and outsourcing players do have at least one area of expertise where they excel and where they are very good. And if that's not yours, you might want to look for that. You want to focus on your strategy. That's also very an interesting aspect. It's not like you don't want to do, or it's things, or you want to outsource things which aren't important. Is that you have limited mental energy, collective intelligence kind of energy, and you cannot split that and distribute it on all the topics. So we'll focus on something, and things which are important, you outsource them so that you can focus on things that you can deliver. Risk mitigation, of course, outsourcing players, we are going to see how they can be helpful there and improve scalability, because if it doesn't improve your scalability, you are doing something very wrong. And that's one of the aspects that you should leverage out of the box with any outsourcing partner. Now, let's go to when. Here are some situations. You have a short-term project. Don't think too much about it. It's new. It's less context to transfer. That's a great scenario to start outsourcing. Again, you feel like you're not focusing enough. So, and you want to do it in a scale manner, just think that your right partner, give them the projects that still matter, but you are not focusing right now. And that's a great situation also to start. Resource constraints, and resource constraints also, not just in terms of financial energy or expertise that we also listed here, but it can be in other, you might not have enough bandwidth as an organization to make things go through. So if you feel in these three pain points, I'd say outsourcing can be a solution. Some of the customers, at least that we know, also started outsourcing because they were interested to going global. And one of the first steps was through an outsourcing team. And that was an already good enough step for them to test their openness and how things work with a company that spans over their normal standard frontiers. Of course, geographic expansion comes along with what I've said. Also, you can say I will test with a team there and then build a delivery center myself, or things like this. So there are lots of flavors here, or fully outsource the delivery center. Lack of agility. It's interesting. It's interesting. 20 years ago, where I kind of accommodated with the idea of outsourcing because it's not something very natural for everyone to do. It was crazy to think that an outsourcing player might have more insights, more value, more knowledge on how to do stuff in this regards. But of course, it's a natural muscle. You need to improve your agility, your understanding about agility, what agility means as for the leaders of the outsourcing companies, and also for the entire organization. If not, it's not going to work. You're going to face important limitations, so you cannot do without it. So with time, over decades, remember agility was 2001. Now there is sometime already. So the entire industry learned a lot. There is an important chance you will learn from your outsourcing player how to do stuff, how to do visibility, how to see technical debt, how to assess it, how to scale, how to structure processes and things like this. And of course, technology innovations, because many outsourcing partners have various areas of expertise, and innovation is something very appealing because from the idea of digital factories, from the idea of we cannot, as a company, build something new or innovate. It was a recurrent case, something that happened a lot in this and still happens, where these companies will seek for a partner to do this kind of of job, the first proof of concepts, the first MVP of something, design sprints, and how to do innovation right, because they don't manage to do that. And the outsourcing player, if they have the tools to do that, that's interesting. So decades ago, that wasn't the case. Today, it's almost 1 out of 3 use cases is somewhere around innovation. Because of course now we can, if we look at artificial intelligence, VR, augmented reality, all these aspects, it's quite difficult for everyone to do them, and outsourcing partners capitalize around it. They learn and learn and learn, and they become better at it, and it can be a great opportunity for you to go fast and test your ideas and see how they work for you. And if you are outsourcing for the first time, where should you put your effort? The first thing that should matter for you is the commitment to the partnership. That's the most important. If you don't spend enough time on it, it will not be serious enough, and not just for the outsourcing partner, but also for your teams and things like this. That's the thing where you should spend enough time so that it's serious enough for everyone. Then, of course, you should not outsource if your outsourcing player doesn't have a partner doesn't have a track record. Ask for testimonials. A very important topic and very difficult to do, even if outsourcing players say they know how to do it, but it's kind of difficult. Know what you buy. It's not easy. It's not always easy to know what you buy. You are having 40 front-end developers. Does that include security, or is that even reasonable? Which is the second step, reasonable expectations. Because security engineering, these are dedicated profiles usually. So if this mixed and you get everything in a bucket, it shouldn't sound well. And of course, after you know what you buy and you have reasonable expectations about what you're buying, am I buying the availability of some people with this particular expertise? Am I buying something else? Are there SLAs there, or some sort of engagement, particular engagements? Then you will need the suited collaboration framework. And if you don't know how to do that, that's fine, because outsourcing players know how to do that. So you will get that out of the box. They need it. So if you don't know how to do it, it will come along with it. Risk management, don't worry if you feel like you're not doing it enough or serious enough. Your outsourcing partner will be there to help you how to do that well. There's some change management on your side, but as you will see in the next slides, if you start small enough, the change management is reasonable. And then, of course, just enough preparations. It should start. If you spend too much on preparations, you might not doing it right, and you might want to externalize something that you don't know how to handle, and that's very likely it won't work well. Talk with your partner what's more reasonable to start with and things like this, so that you have just enough preparations. Here's an example of selecting a partner. Of course, I gave the file for us so that it's an example for you, because I can talk about PentaBAR first. But you will do this when you select your partner with other companies. So you want to look at things like experience, what are the domain of expertise, and you can look at verticals. You can look at digital business models, like do they do ed tech? Do they have enough testimonials there? And it's SaaS or e-commerce. Do they know what that means? What the business, a digital business model there is? You want to look at the number of customers, recommendation rate, and things like this. A very important aspect is compliancy. For example, are you signing with a partner who is far remote, like on another continent, or are you signing with someone who is legally entitled in your country, so that if something goes wrong, it will be easier for you to handle it. Candidate pool, that's very important. If you want to scale, if you don't want to outsource something which is just a small team, and you want to test something and then scale a lot, the candidate pool is very important. Just to give an example, so at PentaBAR we have more than 400,000 candidates tested enough, which is very different. It's not like contacts. We have 1,500 employees. An interesting attrition rate. You might want to look at reviews like Glassdoor or things like this, employee net promoter score. We're also very proud to say that we can fill in open position very, very, very fast. We have a systematized digital system. It's like a machine. All candidates go through the process, and our customers don't get shortcuts. And this is very important. So customers get only profiles who are enough tested. Very, very important. Hard skills, soft skills, English, everything that counts. So if there is one unfair advantage for us, and of course I'm giving some of the PentaBAR, so you should look at on when you compare with other outsourcing players, but I'm talking about us. We have this system called skill value insights, handling all this. It's a data-driven approach that we've digitized for years now, and it's worked very good. It was very good for our customers, fully transparent for all parties. You will see a short demo in the end about it. Services, you need to know what you buy. So we have an impressive, a good enough catalog of services. That's important. Team extension, manage teams. Do they do specific activities? That's interesting for you. Do they do consulting? So this is a very another aspect. Can they do, for example, audits? Can they do assessments? Can they do solution architecture? These are, it shouldn't be the person who has the opportunity doing it for you. It needs to be a method. There needs to be a system that you leverage. If it's done ad hoc, like there is your need and they will do something to address your need, there is an important chance you are going to be served way below the average in terms of quality. And skills, of course, skills. You need to look at the seniority. And of course, these are debates here. For example, we might criticize the level of how many juniors a company might have. But usually, I don't know the case for everyone, but of course, for us at least, customers, when they come, they don't want juniors or intermediates. They want the best people. And of course, we've trained our muscles so that we give them the best people. This is why we have the skill value insight system, and the customers can see if someone is according in the 400,000 people, if they are in top 1, top 5, top 3. All this is fully transparent and is very important. If you want to start with a niche or with looking for a particular expertise, that's great also. And then governance. Not being able of knowing how well we do what we do, that's very hard, and it's going to cost you. It's going to bite everyone, and it's going to bite first the customer. So this is not necessarily out of the box for all outsourcing players. We know that because we learn from the customers that had previous experiences, and when they come to us and say we've never seen this, this is unfortunately something that the industry needs to correct. But if you are here, you're already safe. Other stuff that you should look at is locations. Are there enough regions? And you might look at things like labor force availability in those regions. You might look at cost leverage. You might look at internet infrastructure. Is that good enough? Cultural complexity, of course. If for a French customer looking at Romania, Moldova, they might see not so many differences. But if you change the continent and you say it's Vietnam, you might want to integrate a bit more these aspects, and there is a particular slide about cultural complexity and how to handle that eventually. And then political economical stability. We've seen that not just with the pandemic, with that invalidated some regions temporarily, but also with the war and yeah, these events and phases we are going through that still surprise us, but they happen. This is the real world. Legal stuff, time zone. Time zone is very important. So how far are you from the outsourcing teams? And then, of course, intellectual property. Again, I'm giving examples from us, but you can put that in your context and look further. And then, what is the topic to outsource? It's a very relevant. It's a very relevant question, and you should ask your outsourcing player, what is your sweet spot? Strategic alignment, cost effectiveness, maintenance and support, new system, legacy systems. Just to give you an example, because and again, I'm talking about Pentalog, but I'm sure everyone has these kind of challenges. People we work with, our employees, they want to know they do also hard work, the hard work. So even things like, of course, new systems, everyone loves to do that, so that's fine. And it's a sweet spot for us. But legacy systems also, because it's very hard to do that well. How to tackle with that? How to shift from there to something which is operational available without breaking anything and taking care of the users and things like this. And that's a particular service, for example, for us. We know how to do it, and it's very important. And it's still hard, very hard. And even if some might say it's not interesting because it's legacy, yes, but everyone has some legacy. So our goal is to have all the tools one might need in terms of product digitization and services digitization, so that they move forward better with us. So if they have a legacy system, how can we help them to go further? And we know how to do this very, very, very well. And it's quite explicit on how we do it, if you're interested later. Cultural differences and alignment. Then we've discussed a bit. I've said, I gave the example with changing the continent. So you need to be aware of the cultural norms. So that's at least the least you need to do. And of course, goals and values need to be shared. So not explicit. You are becoming more explicit, and you need to align on that. And sometimes you need to align your management style. But one of the most important aspects of it, because that comes naturally. So if you need to do too much effort, there's something in between there that you need to study. It's usually straightforward. Even if you adapt, it's still something which is reasonable, not with a tremendous effort. Because if you need to adapt for your outsourcing team, maybe something is needed also for your teams as well, and so forth. And one of the key aspects of it is to promote cultural exchange. Visit the teams on both ways, and ensure there is presence together. We know we work remote, and we encourage that, and we love this hybrid free world, and when there are lots of options and everyone finds himself, herself in this world, but there needs to be some sort of presence together. We solve the most important aspect, the most complex problems in a collaborative way, and collaboration is not going to happen by itself. It's a relationship aspect, and you need to spend time together. Just to go briefly through it. Then you are a CTO. Again, I said this was meant for CTOs to be served first, and you feel like outsourcing is for you. How to pitch that? Business value. With your executive, with your shareholders, you shouldn't talk about anything else. It's not the beauty of it, the people. It should be the business value of whatever you get from outsourcing. And you should eventually show the return on investment of these investments. Even if it sounds the perfect business plan, there's still an investment for emotionally, for social, for your organization, and financial, of course. And again, address these concerns with them, because if they don't have questions, something might be wrong. They will ask for how does it work, who does it well, get proofs like testimonials. and involve them in solving these questions all together. And if you don't choose outsourcing, be mindful about how things will happen without it. Consider alternatives, because this is very, very interesting, and it's an interesting question that we'll not address now. But shouldn't everyone have some flavors of outsourcing? And I hope you will find the answers yourselves. So if you don't outsource all your pain points, how are you going to solve them with a reasonable amount of energy? And then scaling outsourcing up or down, because we said at the beginning, customers usually seek for flexibility, and they should get that. So it means scaling up, scaling down, project start, project end, and of course it depends. You should. There are things that shouldn't be shut down, or we don't play with it like it, but it needs to make sense. But if your strategy is like this, you should have this option, and this is very important. Now we should avoid things like that. There was a moment in this industry like 10 years ago when we had lots of startups saying, I have these ideas, I have this proof of concept, I want to build an e-commerce site, estimate that, and when you finish its maintenance. While in reality, the real work happens after it was the system life, and now we know, everyone knows that that wasn't a reasonable expectation as an investor, as a customer, so I'm not talking about this, just assuming that this makes sense. You should be able to do it because you have pandemic, you have wars, you have all this, and sometimes your economy might not support all your initiatives, and you need to lower down the speed or increase the speed, and you can do that with your outsourcing partner. What matters here, and we've chosen 6 items that you should really ensure they are there. Starting. So if you're thinking too much about it, there's a moment you just need to start and test it, and then go slower to go faster. If you start with even 20, 30, 40 people from the start, of course, for your partner, that's good because that's availability, that's time, and it can work. But for you, especially if it's the first time you do it, that might not be the most interesting way to learn and adapt and do something better afterwards. So we always try to start with a team that works, that proves is working, and everyone is fine with it, and your organization gets used to it, and then scale after everyone is happy and see, wow, this is amazing. So seek for this is amazing, and then scale. Don't scale and then, because it's not going to be amazing. And then if you are outsourcing already, like you have hundreds of developers there, and you want to change your outsourcing player, don't shift everything. Don't move the hundreds from one to another. Just do your small team with a new player, test is right, and then progressively it will be more sane for you. Even if for the partner, they might also want to start big from the start. Now, it doesn't mean you cannot negotiate everything, but it's just reasonable enough, not for the player, because they will provide the people. We can provide quickly make people available when the customers are in need. But it's for you to learn, and if it's too much, there are too many changes, you might not be able to adapt. And then optimize for fast end-to-end flow. So it depends on the topic that you want to externalize. But if it's a new short project or things like this, go end-to-end and then go further. Continuous attention to technical excellence. If your outsourcing player is not better than you, that's not good. So you need to feel like you learn from them. Of course, I know, being here at PentaBAR, I've learned from customers, and we are still learning a lot from customers. But those stages are not there now. We want customers to have the wow effect, to get the right read, and so forth. and learn from us, so they are guided. So there's something about this ecosystem of learning that outsourcing players provide for, to make available for customers out of the box. And then things to avoid. Different rhythms. If your outsourcing player has a different rhythm, it goes too fast, then you can do, or too slow, something is wrong. So it needs to be the same pace, or, with small adjustments, but you need to ensure you are calibrated. Of course, avoid too many teams from the start, and avoid an outsourcing department. You can do that. Everyone can do that. That's the easy part. But is that agile enough for your organization? Because you are going to hand over the work. You're going to have incredible cycle times. And of course, this is about management beliefs. This is going to be, if you're doing like this in your company, you will most probably try to do it like this, and that's fine. But if you can, ask them how to do the things properly, end to end, and it should work, and you will learn from them, hopefully, from the outsourcing partners. Then, of course, avoid black box delivery. Like I give you the requirements, and bring the increment. The more you give in this, the more you'll have to test in the end. Is highly inefficient. There's so much work to prove. It's not going to work. Avoid that. And one last thing I didn't mention a lot. If your partner, if you feel like from your partner you don't learn, stop working with it. Something is very wrong. Of course, you can be in the cheap tire and you say, I'm just doing this because it's cheap and that's it. Might make sense, but I feel like that's very limited for you and as a perspective. And why not if it works? But you should learn from your partners. They should excel because they learn from hundreds of customers like you. So somehow this needs to be returned to you in various ways. So, and when we talk about learnings and collaboration framework, there is something about risks and challenges that you face altogether, and you need to know who is accountable for what in this collaboration. So there are things which where your partner needs to be more expert or have more expertise and in control than you and serve you, and there are things where you should be and you should be the one who be the expert in some areas. For example, in terms of collaboration framework, the outsourcing partner should be perfect. They should have everything, processes, agreements, everything. And of course, the know-how, the real hands-on practice. In terms of data, you will stay the data controller. Whatever you do, the outsourcing partner will be some sort of processor from time to time, but you will. We didn't see the case where the outsourcing partner is a controller, so you cannot delegate that accountability. Or security, so if you need to provide those security policies because they are your policies, and the outsourcing partner need to be at least at the level of you are, because if not, the level of your security is the level of your weakest link in this chain. So that's very important. Engineering practices, it depends. With my personal opinion is that customers learn from outsourcing players, but we also have feedback from customers that start with us that they didn't have the same opportunity before. So that's an interesting thing. And of course, ramping up, ramping down, you are the one who's taking the decision overall. Even if the turnover practice is shared and the partner has their own way of doing it. So in terms of risks and challenges, some highlights. You need to know what you don't buy. Is security included? Is privacy included? Is ops included? And things like this. There is some sort of risk management, and this is shared. If it's not, that's gonna bite both sides. And of course, you will need the same level of security, privacy. The staffing should be 100%. If not, you're gonna find surprises. There needs to be a shared agile governance, so there are things to be done there, and I'm going to show that in a second. And of course, You need to know where your product eventually or your information system stands on a maturity scale. Now, maturity models or maturity kind of conversations, they are not always easygoing as they need to be. Because we don't usually have the same expectations about what we get from maturity models. Maturity models are guiding principles, there are practices, there are standards, because outsourcing players like us, they learn from hundreds of customers, then they provide this guidance so that it's easier for you, but they don't guarantee the success, the performance of your company. The performance of your company comes from value drivers like your EBITDA, your churn indicators, your customer acquisition costs, whatever, you name it. It's your key indicators. The maturity models and instruments like this, they will help you not to fail miserably. That's where they help, and not just the collaboration, you. And this is usually something where the customer have a wow effect when they work with us. They look something like this and say, on infrastructure and DevOps, where we stand, are we good? You started almost good, and things like this. This is very important. These are contextual things. Customers get them out of the box, and that's fine. But that they don't guarantee success. They guarantee that you don't fail miserably. And another aspect which is very important to measure the success is to know what you don't know. As we said, one of our favorite persona, our favorite customer is the CTO, but we also work for executive officer, for information officers, and for operation officers and so forth. And one of the key challenges is that no matter who we work for, none of these roles have a complete understanding, systemic understanding of how an information system looks like and how it should behave, and all the aspects that matter. And if we don't have this at the systemic level, at the micro level, it's going to be even harder. So we need to know, and we at least, I hope more players will do the same. We have built tools, methods, automated stuff, so that for technology leaders, it becomes easy to steer and take decisions. If they want to stay in a particular maturity model in one level, or that's fine, because that decision making, they know in what league they are and how much effort they can invest. And that's important. Not knowing where you are, that's problematic. And not knowing what you don't know. For example, these are the differences from CTO and CIO. So how the extremes, there are more responsibilities, so we remove where they are similar. But when high and low, this is I don't know, for example, there are CIOs, they don't really contribute to the strategy of the and they are sometimes they feel like they are not even part of the executive management. And of course we consider this a bit unfair, and there is an asterisk there that it depends on the company and things like this. But that shouldn't be like it. But what does that leader don't know, and doesn't have control, or doesn't understand, or and things like this? And if you are a CTO, for example, enterprise architecture is going to be a challenge. We are doing 2-3 due diligence every week. We know how this is hard. They focus on the product because they are outward looking, but on the infrastructure and the information system as a whole, things are challenging. So you need to know what you don't know. Also, you need to explore that, and we help everyone get that perspective. And of course, where your product stands. And before going to the short demo for 3 minutes of how this can be eased with us, because of course the examples I can give are about PentaBAR. One last slide about the legacy that we leave behind, because we are talking about things that we build and we use enough energy from our companies, but we should also think of things that are left behind, and though the new generation that come can build something with them. And when we talk with CTOs about what they leave behind, they find that at least when they started in the position, when they took over the job of others, it wasn't that straightforward. So this is a challenge. And those who say, yeah, they were happy because they don't expect to be otherwise, to have differences there. So this is very important. It might feel like we are in control and things like this, and that's very hard to be in control in this industry. It's one of the few industries where where we don't have the safety belts. So I'm going to share a screen with a demo just to show you how things work with us. So let me go on our side. Yeah, so know what you buy. For example, for us, it's very straightforward. Many customers land on extended team. What they get is human resources management, services governance, skill management. The rules to make it work, the collaboration framework are explicit. So we make it work with the staffing governance, skills management, things like this. Who does the work? The project director. And you can see this is fully transparent. And then we have customers who say, I want to externalize or to delegate also the efficiency of this team. We have a service for that. Team efficiency becomes reasonable as an expectations. We can prove there is flow optimization over time. The same expectations that we had from the team extension are still valid. The number of rules from the collaboration framework is fairly different because and we've learned this is a methodical work, data-driven approach where we learn how to do this, visibility over technical debt, systematic code review, because they are strongly correlated with customer being unhappy if we don't have implemented. And who's doing the work? Scrum Master. So we have a muscle trained profile trained to do this job and so forth. And if there are other expectations, like the customers would want something like DevOps engineering in their teams, that's fine. But we just observe that the expectations are different when they do that. So the customers expect the delivery pipeline automation, system resilience, high availability of their products and systems, technical telemetry. How we do that? The number of rules, which are basic, minimum presence. Who's doing that? The DevOps engineering. And I'm going just to give another example and how this works. Product ownership, for example. Product ownership, maximize the value of a given capacity. So you had the agile team, you are happy with the flow that you got, and you want to optimize also the outcome of it. So it becomes reasonable to expect from us framing of the product, to have a backlog, you have user behavior analysis, the roadmap, all these kind of stuff. And there is a particular collaboration framework that makes it work, enough presence usually. That's the key. Who's doing this? The product owner, and so forth. Now, if you are a customer, how are you going to see all these things? So you are going to see your services, and you have agile team, product ownership, DevOps engineering. And then you go to your team and you see the rules implemented if they are out of the box. You don't need a steering committee to do that. It's just we had the information, you see it. Whenever you need to check, it's there. So you see here, the product ownership service is not implemented fully, so you cannot expect full benefits from it. And we know that the collaboration framework rules are meant to work together. We implement them, customer and us, the outsourcing partner. Maturity models. You get visibility continues just working with us on various axes, depending on services that you activated. We have user experience also, or other kind of maturity models. And of course, the team you have there. And you can dive in and look at all the moments where you stand on various axes and continue, take decisions with that. And one last thing before the questions, just to show you what every employee candidate has at Pentalog, even contractors like freelancers, because we have a dedicated service also for that, even they are not included in that. We have this SVI system, skill value insights, and you've seen some of the people have the top 1, top 3, top 5. If there is something very common, you test a lot, you do lots of interviews and all this kind of stuff. So you will going to be assessed on various axes. You get tests and lots of stuff. And you see this just by working with us, everything is digitized. And even customers, they test themselves here and so forth, because we also do CTO assessments and this kind of stuff. And everyone can go freely and test themselves. And this is not just for our employees. So yeah, and it's a system that we have optimized over time, and it will become better and better and better to serve our customers and solve our their problems. Now, that being said, I'm going to stop sharing the screen and take the questions. Okay. Let me look at some questions. Can I have someone's contact or set up or discover a call for a partnership? Of course. Glad to see this. Huh? Okay, I will check about it. Thanks for letting us know. Jason, where do you think about build or buy? So I think this is more about building something yourself as a system, like your CRM or like your ERP or your microservice on something like a user service, or buy something on the shelf. Huh? So Jason, dear Jason, this is either, it depends on your company, it can be a strategic topic or a tactic topic. Huh? If it's going to reconfigure what you are talking about, that product, that piece of technology, if it's going to reconfigure your value chain, you are going to remove 3 steps in the value chain, and that's very innovation, things like this. So that's a strategic topic, and you need to be more careful about this kind of decision, and you need to raise it at the level of the executive management, because it's a strategic topic. Because who's accountable for the strategy? The executive officer, and the executive team is guiding everyone. It's contributing to the strategy, but the eventual decision is the executive officer. If it's just making things faster or cheaper, that's very operational efficiency. So that's in tactics, and so you can take those decisions yourself. So that's very different. Now it depends also on the amount of energy you have and the kind of problems you solve. If there's no products addressing your problems good enough, there's no need on having a debate. But if there is, then you need to choose between flexibility and speed. Of course, there are others, but usually flexibility and speed. For example, we have customers that implemented everything in infrastructure as a service and still there because they were looking for full flexibility, or at least almost full flexibility. And we have customers who wanted to go fast. They were looking for speed. So they are more in serverless, at least, very from time to time, some containers, and the platform as a service a lot. All these things matter. So first, strategy or tactics, be clear about that. And then in what league you are playing, how much flexibility you're seeking for, or speed. These are the things. Next, let me see if there is another question. There are no more other questions, or I'm not looking in the right place. There's a Q&A. Sorry, I was looking in the chat. Sylvia, how to balance the onboarding time of outsourced teams fairly? So everything in IT is social technology. So social structures are at least as important as the technology itself. No one can neglect the importance, the impact of the teams for customer who's outsourcing, or for the outsourcing player itself who's making these teams available. Now, what fair means? For whom? In these alliances, and sometimes what matters the most are the rules of the game. What games are you playing? There is this game theory in economics, and there are problems like prisoner's dilemma and things like this. So if you want to go and seek for it, I strongly encourage you to do so. For example, at Pentalog, today we have no ongoing fixed price project, because the rules of the game make the customer lose. That's now customers may come with projects like this, and we just make the rules of the game visible, and if that makes sense, why not? But it's usually less agility for them, and this kind of rules of the game will make either win-lose or lose-lose kind of situation. And win is not the customer. I'm going to explain why. Because in a fixed price, for example, you are going to have a team that if they learn something, and they usually do, they will not be able to apply because applying that changes the terms and conditions. And that's a bureaucracy you need to handle. So that's one thing. Then everything is lower. So how agile is it? We say agility comes from all sides, not just from not just for the customers or from the outsourcing player. It needs to be the same game. And there are many things that the customer loses in this game. But one, and not the least one, teams. How our colleagues will obey this kind of pressure. This is an interesting question. Why? Because our industry is tough. Customers, when they come to us, they don't ask for, I want some friends. It doesn't start like that. They have pain points. They have real business problems they want to solve, and they look at us as that potential solution. But unfortunately, at the beginning, we are a tool. And when we start, SIMs can be a bit tough. I admit, I've been through it with many occasions. So this is why we need to be prepared a lot. This is why we test so much. This is why we filter a lot before we provide the candidate, so that we increase the chances of us succeeding for the customer, and as a whole we succeed together. Of course, our employees feel that pressure at these moments. They are prepared for it, and we are getting better at that. But not an easy game. That's not an easy story. But even if we didn't seek for new relationships, happy relationships at the beginning, we always end up having great relationships in midterm, because we spend time together. It worked. It's just that when you invest your time with an outsourcing player, you don't want to lose your energy. So you don't want to lose your decision power through friendship. And I feel this is so everything comes in time. So yeah, there are things that can be tough for our colleagues. We try to support them, and sometimes is very tough. But we managed to do this for 3 decades already. So those who are not ready as candidates to go to this, we already tell them from the start. And if it's not clear, I hope it's going to be clear after this kind of message. But it is clear, because we know our business for a while. It's not the easiest business. We need to learn and be there and do great work. We need to be the best, and we kind of get that. We still fail for it happens to fail. And I know this is not to be said normally in a session like this, but last year we had 2 customers that weren't happy. Of course, we should talk about more than 200 customers in a year. So it still happens. It's a business of people, and sometimes people, we aren't machines, and we are aware of that. It happens. We are looking always for ways to serve ideally, to serve our customers in the best way possible. So I hope I've touched a bit the fairness part. So it's all relative. If you are prepared mentally to do that, it's gonna work. Yeah. So I've answered to this. Jason, thank you. Okay, excellent. So that was it. Thank you for your time. I hope it was useful for the audience. The session will be available. It was recorded, and you can replay it with pleasure. And see you next time. Have a nice day.